Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I have a marker addiction. What can I say? We're going to take a look at the Arrtx line of Alp markers. Arrtx is the brand. Their newest line of markers are the Alp line, and it's been out since I think around February of 2020. Now, previous to these markers that look like this, they had a marker that was just their original Arrtx marker, and it looked like this. And I reviewed this when it came out about a year and a half ago. I really liked these because it was really easy to tell what side was the chisel side and what side was the bullet side, and it was pretty easy to remove those caps, which is really nice when you are coloring because I tend to use a chisel tip more often, and it was just really easy to grab that and see what color it was. Of course, the color was only printed on one side, so I mean that could be a problem for some people, but basically the same tips on these new markers. They're just a little bit skinnier. They look the same on either side. Maybe a little bit more difficult to remove the caps. I guess the chisel edge does have a little bit bigger of a cap, but I think a lot of times they loosen up with age, so not really a huge deal. But I thought I would just show you the precursor. Now these came in, I think a set of 168 was the biggest, or 164, somewhere around there. And I believe you can still purchase these if you're interested in them. And if you have any strength issues and you're trying to decide between the two, I would go with this just because it's easier to pull the caps off. There isn't as many colors available in this set as far as I know as the new ones, but it's a great little marker, and I still recommend it. And I'll link to the review on this. I'll try to remember to in the video description so you can check it out if you're interested in that, because like I said, they're still available. And you know what, there actually might be more than 168 because they also had a gray tone and a skin tone set, as I recall. But they came out with a new style called the Alp, and I reviewed them when they first came out. I think it was back in February, and at the time they had this set of 80, and I'll link to that video too because I go through many blends for this set, which is very similar to a selection of colors you'd find in most 80 color marker sets. In fact, you might even recognize some of these colors and numbers because they use the same color coding as the old Arrtx markers and many other markers that you might be familiar with. And I made myself a note so I wouldn't forget. They use the same color families as the Ohuhu Classic, the concept markers from Jerry's, which are available open stock, so if you use one up, you could order a concept marker from Jerry's Artarima and get that same color. The Shin-Hand Touch markers, which I believe you can buy refills for, so if you use up a marker and you want to refill it, why not? Pull out the chisel nib and go for it. Touch New, the kind of generic art marker, which you see in some big box stores, and obviously the old Arrtx markers. So I thought that was interesting. They use that same color line. I even checked on my Ohuhu swatches because I have the 200 classic Ohuhu colors, and I checked my swatches, and yes, they match up. So if you're familiar with that range, these are going to be very similar. Also, if you have a big set of Ohuhus, you're probably going to have mostly duplicates there. So like I mentioned, I don't know if I did mention it or not. This is the second take I've tried to record this. I have so much that I'm trying to remember, and I want to get out all this information in one go. So because I'm in a very fortunate situation where I have a YouTube channel, marker companies will often ask me if I would like to review their products, and so even though I received these markers for free, I think it's my duty to make sure that I give you all the pros and cons because you're spending your hard-earned money on these, and I want to make sure you go in it with your eyes open and you can choose the best markers for you because there's a lot of great markers out there. So after they released that set of 80 that I showed you and I reviewed in the past, they came out with a set of gray and skin tones, and I was very excited about this because I find that if you have a good set of gray markers, you could learn to color with markers with a good set of gray. Just learn your values, learn shading. You can learn blending with your gray markers, and then you can even glaze on some colors on top of that to get more depth and get more color. So it's a very good way to get started in markers on a budget and really build your skills. You're not going to be lacking. You're not going to be held back by this. You are going to be strengthened by that. So I love that they had a really great selection of gray colors. There was 32 in the set. And they had all the warm grays, all the cool grays, and some blue and green grays. So you really couldn't beat that. Now these are all bullet tip and chisel tip markers, which I know a lot of people are interested in brush markers only. only. But, you know, the brush markers are a lot more expensive. It's hard to get a good brush tip in a budget marker. And then they came out with a skin tone set, which had very fair, a lot of fair skin tones and cool pinky undertones to the skin tones. So I was a little hard on that set when I reviewed it, just because I felt like it needed some warmer undertones to represent more flesh tones. And like that set kind of came with one colorless blender. This one came with two. The assorted sets come with one, but there's just a quick recap of the grays that are in those sets. Like I mentioned, I have a review on these as well. If you want to find that, I'll try to remember to link that in the video description as well. Now, the original 80 set and this 36, this is it 36 or 40? You know what? I think this might be 40 set. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 6, 36, right? 36. And my times tables are rusty. This set came with a latch on it. I think I might take a little screwdriver and remove the latches, because they kind of get caught up when I go to display the markers so I can use them, and I'm afraid I'm going to hurt the box when I do that. The other sets do not have the latches, which I'm very thankful for. I think that was just kind of unnecessary, and it was cute, but I think it made it more difficult. But this is an illustration I did with the gray and skin tone set. This is a portrait of my daughter Lila. I was very happy with the way this set went. It worked fine with, you know, doing somebody with very fair skin, but I just was feeling like it wouldn't really capture the richness of, you know, somebody that has a more richer brown or skin tone. But I did like the markers. I did like the assortment. I just felt like it, maybe instead of those two colorless blenders, it could have had like a kind of a warmer brown or something like that, and there were a couple warmer browns. So then I got an email from them a couple weeks ago saying they had some color family sets coming out and asked if I would like to review them. And as you know, I am kind of a sucker for markers, so they sent, I'm just going to move these out of the way. They sent the green set, purple set, blue set, and pink set. And these are all 24 sets that were themed. So they're all themed with, like these are pinks and reds. This is blues and teals. This is all greens. Beautiful selection of greens. Lots of pastels too, which is, you know, the coveted colors, because they blend so well. And the pinks and purples, more of like your acidy, cool pinks and purples, and even some skin tones in this are, you know, some really, you know, kind of skin undertone colors, very pale, like blend out tones. And they also came out with a yellow set. This set's larger, it's 40, and it is, it's yellows, oranges, and browns. And, you know, browns are kind of desaturated oranges, so it totally made sense that they put all those colors together. So then I was thinking, so I asked them, oh, and then they said they had a new 90 set coming out, and I had asked them, are the duplicates between the color sets, the 24 color sets, and their assorted sets? And they said, well, let's just send them to you, and you can take a look and see what you think, and see, you know, and just have a look at them. And so they sent the 90 set over, and all the packaging is just beautiful. They're all meant to be reused and displayed, and I think that's really nice when you get packaging that's actually a display as well, so because you don't have to buy marker storage, and it's just handy to use because it sits on your desk. I really like that. I think when brands think about their packaging as being long-term storage, I think it's a really good idea. Saves you money, and it saves stuff out of the trash. And so they sent this set of 90 assorted, and I was wondering if there was going to be duplicates between that and the original 80 set. So I did some investigating by swatching and comparing and and having my brains full of markers for the day. So what I ascertained was no, there's no duplicates except for the clear blender and the black between the 90 set and the 80 set. So then I looked at the 90 set and the 80 set, and I compared them to all of the color family sets that they sent. And what I did here was I put a check mark on a color, and I swatched out all of the color family sets. I put a check mark on the color if it was in the original 80 set. I put a plus sign if it was in the 90 set. And all of the colors that were in the yellow, red, purple, blue, green, and gray sets. Where'd my gray swatch go? Because I had to draw it on the actual gray Arrtx one because I didn't I didn't grab my hand done one. Between those two, the 80 and the 90 sets, every color on the color family sets is covered. So if you were interested in those color families, you could buy the 80 and the 90 set and have all those colors. So I just wanted to put that out there first because I know it's very, you're like, oh, I want all the colors. And so you save up and you buy, the red set, then you buy the green set, then you buy the assorted set, then you realize, wait a minute, I have a bunch of those colors. So if you want this line of markers, I would recommend getting the 2 assorted sets and get it being all set. It does not have the colors from the skin tones in it though. So if you want those skin tones, none of those colors are in these sets. There may be some similar ones, but the skin tone set goes in there. The color numbers are in like the 300s. It's kind of odd. I did find it out that the names of the skin tone colors actually match the names of Copic in the Earth family colors. So you could get reinkers for most of those, or for quite a few of those. I did a video on that as well. So I'll try to link up all my Arrtx videos down below so you can get more information before you spend any money. I like these, but I just want to make sure you have all the information out there. So yeah, I don't have all the Copic skin tones, obviously. I'm not a millionaire. And Copic doesn't send out stuff for review. So the Copics that I have are ones that I've collected over the years and bought reinkers for. So that was kind of neat knowing that I could get a reinker for this marker if I wanted to. So just really, really, I feel so spoiled. Oh my gosh, I feel so spoiled that I want this video to be useful for anybody looking to buy markers because I know that I'm in a very unusually fortunate situation. So the skin tone colors are not, so if you got the 80 and the 90 and the skin tone set, you wouldn't have any duplications except for colorless blenders and blacks. The only thing that's in there are a couple colors that are in the 80 and 90 sets that are not in the color families, and those would be the fluorescent colors. Before I was like, wait a minute, how could there be colors that are not in these? Because I was doing a blend test, I'll show you that in a second, just a little coloring thing, and I picked out 124, and I'm like, oh, that's not in any of the other sets, that's weird. Then I realized it's just the fluorescent colors. It's 122, 123, 124, and 121 that's not in those sets. And it could be because those are fluorescent colors and they may be more prone to fading. Now, markers in general, alcohol markers are not light fast, except for the Winsor & Newton pigment markers, but they don't really behave like regular alcohol markers. They're kind of their own beast, but those are light fast, but none of the Copic markers, none of the Arrtx markers, none of the Hoo markers, none of those alcohol markers are going to be light fast. They're great for sketchbook work or work that you are going to scan. I do quite a bit of freelance work for marker companies, and all that work is photographed and scanned. The originals go back in a portfolio in my studio and live there forever away from the light because they will fade. So it doesn't matter if you spend $8 on a Copic marker, it's not going to last any longer on paper than any of the other cheaper brands, since the inks are all very similar. So the ink line, like I mentioned, seems to work on the Shinhan Touch system, color numbering system. So I would recommend downloading, and I wish I realized this before I swatched all these. I wish I just downloaded the Shinhan Touch color chart, because then I could keep everything organized on one chart. I might still do that. I'm pretty swatched out at the moment, so we'll see. But I would recommend finding one of just search Shinhan Touch marker chart, and you'll be able to find one that you can print out and color in online. But the nice thing about that is Shinhan does make reinkers, so if you ran something dry, you can buy a reinker. And I think that's really nice because, you really don't need a million markers. I know, pot calling the kettle black here. You don't need a million markers, and most of these, if you've got a chisel and a bullet nib, those nibs are resilient. Anytime I've ever had to replace a nib on a marker, it's been a brush nib. So chances are you could refill this marker 10 times and not have to buy a replacement nib. And if you do, bullets and chisels are pretty easy to come by. And you can either what I usually do, and how I reink my Copics, I just take the reinker bottle and I just drip it on the chisel tip, because you can see there's a gap in there, and it can just drip down into the pad in the center, lay it flat, and then it'll ink both ends. So, why not? Why buy more markers if you don't need to? So like I said, these do match the Shinhan colors. When I compare these with my, if I made a swatch of, say, let me just randomly grab a concept marker from Jerry's Artorama, because I have a few. I'll grab a couple. I gotta got a couple right here. I got, this is 138 light pink. Let me find 138. I imagine that is here somewhere. 138 right there. Let me just do a little swatch. I find that other brands seem to be a little bit darker, and I don't know if just the ink flow is faster on these other markers than the Arrtx, but I do notice the ink flow is a bit slower on the Arrtx Alp markers. Something I've also noticed too, now let's see, this one is 59. Let me see, 59 right there. And these again are the Jerry's Artorama Concept markers. It just seems like when I use these or the Ohuhus, the ink is a little bit darker. I feel like the ink is more pastel in this, even though the colors pretty much match up. So I don't know if they maybe dilute the ink a little bit. I don't want to say that and, you know, be wrong, but that's something I've noticed, that the colors seem to swatch out. And granted, you know what, this is Neenah cardstock and this is marker paper, so marker paper sometimes your marker's a little bit lighter on, but I just swatched like that concept marker and that concept marker, and you can see it's like a shade darker, like maybe the ink and the vehicle have separated a bit in the marker, or maybe it's, usually if it dries out your marker looks a little bit darker, so maybe they've toned down their colors a little bit, but like if I just take a random swatch here, this is, let's see, 17, got 17 there. Let's see, 68. Do we have 68 here? Let's pick a color I have. 88. There's 89. Do I have 89 on this one? Oh my gosh, I'm putting myself on the spot and I can't find any. I can't match up anything. Oh, 86. This one looks a little bit lighter. But the colors, the numbers do match up pretty well. I have 196. I do have some different colors here. Well, geez, make a liar out of me, swatch cards. 72. There's my blues here. So 72 right there. 74 right there. I punch holes in my swatches so that I can match them up easily. So like that 76 looks a little bit lighter than this 76. But there's too many commonalities for me not to think that they're using the same ink system, whether, you know, maybe it gets the ink just feels a little bit slower, I guess is to say. Let's see, 59. Let me grab that marker and let me just try swatching it next to that one, that concept one. Yeah, I just feel like it seems like it's the same color scheme, but the marker might just be a little bit off between the number here and the number in a concept or the number in a Ohuhu or one of the other ones. Oh, let me try, oh, look at this. I got the old Arrtx. Let's try the old Arrtx and see. Now see, that one's darker. It's like that, but a darker shade of it. That's interesting. Let me grab that 59 here again and let's swatch it out right next to it and see. Oh, you know, I should try the bullet tip too. Yeah, it just looks like this 59 is a little bit mintier. But overall, it's going to be very similar because they run on the same coloring system. That's why you should always swatch your markers out to make sure you know what you have. Overall, I'd say they're a good marker. They do feel like they run a little bit dry, like the ink doesn't flow quite as fast as other ones, but it could also be that I haven't used these as much as like my concept markers and the old Arrtx ones, and the kids use the Arrtx ones, and sometimes my old Arrtx ones, sometimes when like the markers get used a bit, the nibs soften up and the ink flows a little bit better, so it could just be the case of a new hard nib. I just colored a Bird of Paradise because I just colored two others with a couple other brands of markers. So I did this one with Spectrum Noir Tri-Brush. I did this one with a Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend Bullet Tip. And I did this one with the Arrtx. And you can see the saturation and the colors here are gorgeous. Blending is gorgeous. It did just as well as the more expensive markers. I can bring it up a little bit more so you can see. So yeah, I mean, it does the job. It gets the job done. I don't know exactly what these are retailing for because I haven't been able to see the single color sets available, but I know the 80 color set was right around like between 40 and 50 bucks. So right around, you know, 50 to 60 cents a marker. And that's generally what a lot of the big sets of markers tend to go for, like, if you're buying a big set of Ohuhu markers, or the old Arrtx, or Bienyo, any of those brands, you do tend to pay about 50 cents a marker. So that's, I think, priced pretty fair. I think a lot of it is if you like the aesthetic of these markers versus the old style. They look kind of cute because they've got that little, Alp design there, kind of looks cloudy almost. It's kind of pretty and aesthetic. And if you like to photograph your artwork and have cute markers next to it on Instagram, then that'll definitely look pretty. I will say they've gotten better since the first set of 80. They've gotten much better with matching their cap colors to the ink. The first set of 80 I thought was quite off on some of their colors, and the newer ones do seem to be a bit better, especially like the grays and the skin tones. I think those matched pretty well, whereas there were just the colors look so, if I look at this, it's like, oh my gosh, those colors are so bright, it's like a box of Sharpies. But then when I swatched them out, it's like, well, no, those are lovely. They're soft, the colors are soft, and I can show you the 80 colors swatch. I've got such a stack of things. What did I do with those big swatches? Did I put them under here? Oh, friends, here we go. But when you look at the swatch, yeah, there's vibrant colors here, but there's also a lot of really nice pale shades that, I mean, they look so bright. Like 75, look how pretty that soft lavender is. And look at what that swatch looks like. The chip on the end, it looks so bright. That's actually called dark blue light, which is so funny because to me I'd call that like lavender or lilac or something. And like 77 pale blue. This one's a little bit better, but you can't trust the chips on that first set of 80. Even that's quite a bit darker than it is. So always swatch your markers out, but notice that in the first set of the Arrtx, it is quite a bit off, and I feel like they got much better the second time around. Like even this bright purple, this is closer. It's still darker than how it looks. Keep in mind, let's do 83. Let's find it on our swatch here because it's a little bit closer. Because marker paper, I feel like, is a little bit truer than the swatches that they sent. They sent there, but I do feel like they did a much better job in matching the colors this time. Now 179. Where's that one? Did I put that one on the wrong one? I had stuff from both of the. Oh no, see now this one, look how dark that is. You would not expect that aqua mint. Did I not? Sometimes I'm like, did I not swatch it? Yeah, see that is so light and you would never guess that from seeing the chip. So it is kind of hit or miss. I feel like they've gotten better, but it is a little bit hit or miss with the caps, the color caps and the markers. So, I think they're a solid marker. Obviously they have some pluses and minuses, just like anything. They're not brush tip. I know that's a big deal breaker for a lot of you guys, but I mean, I was really pleased with the blending that I got here, especially having such a variety of markers. It does help. If you don't have brush tips, having more colors really helps you be able to get a really nice blend. But I mean, they ain't got nothing on the Spectrum Noir ones there, I don't think. And, they layer up well. I didn't get any. One thing I did notice, it was a bonus. I didn't get any overbleed. Like I didn't have any of the marker ink bleeding out because it is a slow flow marker. So if you find the other markers just feel too out of control or too juicy, these do not feel like a juicy marker. Hopefully that doesn't mean that they're going to run dry sooner than later, but I think it might have to do with the tips being, especially the bullet tips are really hard on these markers, and I think it might be restricting the pigment flow a little bit. I don't think they would have dried out, at all between here and there. And I think if they did dry out, you'd get a dry feeling, but you'd have a darker color because it would be the alcohol that would be absorbing or evaporating rather. But they do blend smoothly. I think if you want a chisel bullet tip, they're definitely worth checking out. The bullet tip, it does seem to be a little bit finer than some of the other bullet tips out there because it comes to a sharper point. I don't know if you can see that or not. I can grab another marker just to compare. Let's grab this one here. That other one just looks a little bit fatter. It's a pretty small difference. But it's a difference, I mean, there's so many good brands of markers out there. Yeah, this definitely, the Arrtx is probably one of the finest tips that I've seen. The Spectrum Noir Illustrator also has quite a fine, hard tip on it for their bullet tip. So, you know, it just depends on what you like and what meets your needs. And I love the fact that there's storage included and a swatch sheet included in each set, because you usually don't get that. And that can save you some money in the long run. I hope you found this useful. It's kind of crazy. I know it's a lot of markers. It was a lot for me to keep in my head, so I wanted to put this all out here while I could still remember all the little nuances. And like I said, these smaller sets, the colors are going to be in the 80 and the 90 assorted sets. So I would do either the smaller sets, or like if you want to buy these as your budget allows, get a little set at a time. That's nothing wrong with that. Start with the grays or the skin tones, I would recommend, depending on what you like to draw. I would do grays if you don't like to do portraits, and go from there. And that way you can collect the colors and not have to have the outlay of the bigger sets right off the bat. So I like that there's two ways to do it. I didn't see any duplications between the sets. I didn't notice any duplications between the smaller sets, so that's nice. I like that option. I don't know why I didn't mention that at first. It didn't occur to me, because, you know, probably buying the two bigger sets would be the cheapest way to go. But I like this because you can also buy a set that you use most often, like maybe the grays or maybe it's greens. I don't know what you like to color. And then see if you like it before investing in more. So that's also a nice thing. I think if it was me and I was curious about these, I would say, well, let me start off with something I know I'm going to use, and it would either be skin tones or grays, depending on what you already have in your stash. If you don't have anything, I would say get the grays, play with those, practice blending, practice shading, see what you think, and if you like it, then you can add as you go, you know? But then again, if you get the skin tones, then this has no duplications in the assorted sets either. So you could start with the skin tones knowing that if you love them, you could buy the assorted sets and save a little money, or you could go little set by little set and not have duplications either. So there's a lot to think about there. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any questions, I'm here to help. So thanks to Arrtx for sending these for review. I appreciate it. It lets me expose people to more different markers so they can make educated decisions with their money, because you don't need every kind, you know? This is where you can pick the one that will suit you best. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like reviews. Until next time, happy crafting.